I'm Rachel, 38, living in a small house in Boise, Idaho, with my husband Tom and our son Lucas, who's 7. Life hasn't been easy, but we've always made do, until last year, when everything I thought I knew about family shattered. This isn't a story about revenge or heroes. It's about choices, the kind that carve you up and leave you wondering who you really are. My older brother, Greg, is 42. Growing up, we were close. He'd sneak me extra cookies when Mom wasn't looking, taught me how to ride a bike, and promised he'd always have my back. Even after he moved to Seattle and struck it big in tech, we stayed tight. Greg wasn't just successful. He was the kind of rich you see in magazines. Private jets, a waterfront mansion, a wife named Vanessa who looked like she stepped out of a fashion ad. Me? I was happy with my teaching job, Tom's mechanic work, and Lucas's crooked smile. But when Lucas got sick, everything changed, and Greg showed me a side of him I never knew existed. It started with a fever that wouldn't quit. Lucas was always a tough kid. Scraped knees, muddy sneakers, never complained. But last spring, he started fading. His skin got pale, his eyes heavy, like the light in him was dimming. I took him to the doctor, expecting a quick fix. Instead, we got a referral to a specialist. After a week of tests, they sat us down in a sterile office that smelled like bleach and handed us a word I'll never forget: leukemia. My world stopped. Tom gripped my hand so hard it hurt, but I barely felt it. All I could see was Lucas in the waiting room, coloring a picture of a dinosaur, oblivious to the bomb that just dropped. The doctor laid it out. Aggressive treatment, months in the hospital, maybe years, chemo, radiation, and if we were lucky, a bone marrow transplant. The catch? It wasn't just about finding a donor. The transplant, the meds, the hospital stays. Insurance would cover some, but we were looking at hundreds of thousands out of pocket. We didn't have that kind of money. Our savings were maybe 10 grand, enough for a used car, not a kid's life. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by Lucas's bed, watching his chest rise and fall, his dinosaur blanket tucked under his chin. Tom was downstairs, crunching numbers we both knew wouldn't add up. By morning, I had an idea. Greg. He was my brother, the one who'd promised to always be there. He had millions. Surely he could help. I called him, hands shaking as I dialed. He picked up, voice cheerful, like he was halfway through a latte. Rach, what's up? I told him everything. Lucas's diagnosis, the costs, the terror clawing at my chest. I didn't beg, not at first. I just laid it out, raw and honest. Greg, we're drowning. The transplant could save him, but we can't afford it. I hate asking, but can you help? There was a pause, long enough that I checked if the call dropped. Then he sighed, not the warm kind, but sharp, like I'd inconvenienced him. Rachel, that's rough. I feel for you, I do. But money's tied up right now. Investments, you know? And Vanessa and I are planning this big trip. Bora Bora, Maldives, the works. It's $1 million deal, non-refundable. Let me think it over, okay? I stood there, phone pressed to my ear, stunned. $1 million vacation? My son was fighting for his life, and he was talking about beaches? I swallowed the lump in my throat. Greg, this is Lucas, your nephew. Please. He promised to call back, but his voice was already slipping into that distant tone he used with strangers. He didn't call back. Not that day. Not the next. I texted. Left voicemails. Nothing. Tom saw me unraveling and tried to hold me together. We'll find a way, Rach. We always do. But how? I started a crowdfunding page, shared it with everyone I knew. Friends donated what they could. $50 here, $100 there. My principal let me take unpaid leave to be with Lucas. Tom picked up extra shifts, coming home with grease under his nails and shadows under his eyes. But it wasn't enough. Weeks passed, and Lucas started chemo. He'd lie in that hospital bed, bald head shining under the fluorescent lights, still trying to make me laugh. "Mom, do I look like a superhero now?" he'd say, rubbing his scalp. I'd smile, but inside, I was breaking. Then Greg finally called. I was in the hospital cafeteria, stirring cold coffee, when my phone lit up. I answered, hoping he'd changed his mind. Instead, he sounded annoyed, like I'd been hounding him. "Look, Rachel, I talked to Vanessa. We can't swing it. The trip's booked, and we're stretched thin. Maybe after we're back, we can send something small. You've got insurance, right?" I couldn't believe it. Small? Greg, he needs a transplant. It's $500,000, minimum. You spent that on a yacht last year. My voice cracked, and a nurse at the next table glanced over. Greg got defensive. "Don't make this about me. I worked for what I have. You'll figure it out." He hung up. I sat there, coffee shaking in my hands, feeling like I'd been punched. I didn't tell Tom right away. He was already caring too much. But when I did, he went quiet. The kind of quiet that scares you. "Your brother's a piece of work," he said finally, staring at the hospital parking lot. "Lucas deserves better." He was right, but it didn't fix anything. Greg and Vanessa left for their trip. I saw it on Instagram. Crystal water, overwater bungalows, them clinking champagne glasses. Each post was a knife. My son was throwing up from chemo, and my brother was sipping cocktails in paradise. Months dragged on. Lucas fought like hell, but the leukemia was relentless. The doctors found a donor match, miracle number 1, but the costs kept climbing. We sold our car, took out loans, leaned on the crowdfunding. It was a drop in the bucket. I wrote Greg one last time. A letter, not a text. I poured my heart into it, told him how Lucas asked about Uncle Greg, how I didn't know what to say. I begged, no pride left. "You're his family. Please, don't let him die because of money." I mailed it to his mansion, certified, so I'd know he got it. The receipt came back, signed by Vanessa. No reply. By fall, Lucas was slipping. His body couldn't handle another round of chemo without the transplant, and we were $300,000 short. I'd lie awake, imagining him gone, the silence where his laugh used to be. One night, I broke down in the hospital chapel, not even praying, just whispering, "Why us?" A nurse found me, brought me water, said she'd seen worse cases pull through. I wanted to believe her, but hope was a thin thread. Then a twist I didn't see coming. My friend Kelly, who worked at a local news station, saw our crowdfunding page. She pitched Lucas's story to her editor, and they ran a segment. Local boy fighting leukemia, family struggling to pay. It aired on a Tuesday night. By Wednesday, donations poured in. $5, $20. One guy sent $10,000 with a note. "For your superhero." A Boise philanthropist, some retired tech guy named Harold, saw the story and called me. He'd lost his daughter to cancer years ago. "I'm covering the transplant," he said, voice gruff. "All of it." I sobbed so hard I could barely thank him. Harold didn't want publicity, just said, "Tell Lucas to keep fighting." The transplant happened in November. Lucas was a warrior, even when the IVs made him wince. Tom and I took turns sleeping in the hospital chair, its vinyl creaking every time we moved. Slowly, Lucas started to mend. His color came back, his laugh too. By Christmas, he was home, weak but alive, building Legos on the living room floor. I'd watch him,
afraid to blink, like he might vanish if I looked away.
You'd think that's where the story ends, right? Happy ending, family pulls through. But life's messier than that. Last month I got a call from Greg. I hadn't heard his voice in over a year, not since he brushed me off. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity got me. He sounded different. Shaky, not the cocky tech bro I knew. "Rachel, I need to talk. It's bad." My first thought was Vanessa. Maybe something happened to her. But no, it was worse. Greg's company tanked. A bad deal, some shady investors. He wouldn't give details, just said he'd lost everything. The mansion, the cars, the yacht, all gone. Vanessa left him, took what little cash was left. He was living in a one-bedroom apartment, scraping by on freelance gigs. "I messed up, Rach," he said, voice cracking. "I'm drowning. I need help. A loan. Anything. I know I don't deserve it, but I'm begging." I stood in my kitchen, gripping the counter, the same counter where I'd cried over Lucas's bills. I saw red. "You're begging me?" I said, louder than I meant. "After you let my son nearly die for a vacation?" He tried to explain, said he didn't know how bad it was, that Vanessa pushed for the trip, that he was scared to lose his lifestyle. I was wrong, okay? I'm sorry. I see it now. I laughed, bitter, not because it was funny, but because it hurt too much to cry. "You see it? Lucas could have died, Greg. He was your nephew, and you didn't even send a card." He went quiet, then whispered, "I know." I hate myself for it. I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to scream, to tell him to rot. But another part, the part that remembered him sneaking me cookies, felt this ache, like losing him all over again. Tom overheard, shook his head when I told him. "He made his bed, Rach. Don't let him drag you down." He was right, but it wasn't that simple. Greg was family, or at least he used to be. I thought about Lucas, how he'd ask about Greg someday, what I'd tell him. I thought about Harold, who owed us nothing but gave everything. Could I be that person? Did Greg even deserve it? I didn't give him money. Not yet. Instead, I sent him a box. Some old photos of us as kids. A note. "This is who we were. Figure out who you are now." Maybe it was cruel. Maybe it was kind. I don't know. He texted me after, said he's in therapy, trying to rebuild. He asked to see Lucas, to apologize in person. I haven't decided if I'll let him. Lucas is doing okay, back at school, his hair growing and curly. He doesn't know the whole story, just that Uncle Greg's been busy. Someday, I'll have to tell him the truth, but not now. I'm still figuring out what forgiveness looks like. It's not a switch you flip. It's a weight you carry, deciding every day if it's worth holding. Greg's fall doesn't erase what he did, but it makes him human again. Not a villain, just a guy who chose wrong. I don't know if I'll help him. I don't know if I can. But I'm here, standing in my kitchen, listening to Lucas laugh in the next room, and that's enough to keep me going. If you like these stories, please subscribe this channel for more interesting videos.